I stand before you today to apologize. I stand before you today to say sorry.
Tonight, the Province of Saskatchewan gives an apology for their role in the Sixties Scoop. RCMP in British Columbia move in to remove 2 blockades that are stopping construction of a natural gas pipeline.
Everybody wears clothes, and why not wear something with a message?
And an Alberta fashion designer is incorporating old letters from her grandmother in her new clothing. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Regina. Starting off in Wet'suwet'en in British Columbia, RCMP moved in to remove 2 barriers at Unistoten reoccupation camps today. The camps are blocking workers from getting to the Coastal GasLink pipeline project. Elected First Nation leadership along the pipeline have given their approval for the project, but some members of the Unistoten clan have set up blockades to stop industry from moving in. Word of the RCMP movement swirled around social media early this morning with videos and photos of RCMP tactical units en route to the camps. Upon arrival, they set up exclusion zones and closed roads to the public and media as officers get set to dismantle the camps. According to an RCMP news release, police are there to enforce a court injunction that called for the camps to be dismantled so pipeline work could begin. We have a crew on the ground near the RCMP exclusion zone. Kathleen Martins joins us now.
Yes, we turned down Morris Forest Service Road, and as you can see, this is as far as we got. Behind me, you see the RCMP have blocked off the road. We're about 17 kilometers from the checkpoint. We can't get any closer. They tell us if we try to cross, they'll arrest us for obstruction. So that has changed our ability to do the story. We don't know what's happening up at the checkpoint or even up at the camp. They have let some of the hereditary chiefs through. We've seen them let company employees through. When we've asked to go through, they say that we have to be on a list, an approved list. And that list is available in the nearest town, which is Houston. And we, of course, can't phone there because the phone service here doesn't work. So it's really hampered our ability to get the details of what is happening up at the camp. That's Kathleen Martins reporting. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Kathleen. This is a story we'll obviously be following. We want to hear what you think. Here's, of course, how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptnnews. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. And in Manitoba, the trial of the killing of a young First Nations woman began in Winnipeg today. Janine Fontaine was found shot dead in her North End home in March 2017. 2 men have pleaded not guilty to manslaughter in connection with her death. Brittany Hobson is at the courthouse and brings us more.
On the first day of the trial, court heard Janine Fontaine was killed over a drug debt between her boyfriend and the girlfriend of one of the accused. Jason Mayer and Christopher Brass are on trial for manslaughter. Both have pleaded not guilty. On March 14, 2017, Fontaine was found in her home in Winnipeg's North End. She was shot in the back of the head. The Crown alleges her home was set on fire shortly after. Fontaine was a mother of 3 and the cousin of Tina Fontaine, whose own death sparked a call for the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. The Crown says Fontaine was killed during a robbery. They say Mayer's girlfriend told him to go to Fontaine's home to collect a drug debt for methamphetamine. The court heard from 3 witnesses today, including firefighters on the scene and a forensic investigator. Kevin Luptek told the court that he was the first to find Fontaine's body. At the time, she was unresponsive, and she was immediately sent to the hospital. Fontaine's brother is expected to testify on Tuesday. The Crown says that he was in the home the morning of the incident. The trial is expected to last for 3 weeks. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Time for us to take a short break, but when we come back, jury deliberations for a man accused of murdering a 12-year-old girl in British Columbia back in 1978. But first, here's tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the east coast, we've got 1 in snow in St. John's, -4 and a mix of sun and cloud in Halifax. The Grand River is -14 in snow. Kuujjuaq, sunny and -15. Nain. 3 in Montreal. Sept-Îles is -5 in sunshine. 4s for Peterborough, Toronto. It's sunshine there. Sarnia and London, 5 and sunny. -6 and sunny in Sioux Lookout. 0 and snow in Wawa. -22 in clear in Churchill. -16s for the Paw, Norway House. -11 in Gimli and snow. -8 in Winnipeg. -2 in sunny in Swift Current. -4s for Regina and Estevan. -13 in Buffalo Narrows. -15 in sunny in La Ronge. -10 in Meadow Lake. Welcome back. This morning, the Saskatchewan government issued an apology for their part in the 60s Scoop. The 60s Scoop saw tens of thousands of Indigenous children across Canada taken from their families and adopted out across the country and around the world, mostly to white families. APTN's Amber Bernard reports.
Today marks the official apology to 60 Scoop survivors in the province of Saskatchewan. Premier Scott Moe addressed survivors this morning at the Saskatchewan Legislature building in Regina.
On behalf of the Government of Saskatchewan and on behalf of the people of Saskatchewan, I stand before you today to apologize. I stand before you today to say sorry.
Those directly impacted by the 60 Scoop era say today has been a long time coming.
For myself personally, being up here today made me feel like I reached a milestone. I've waited for this for a long time, and I felt like I've been able to get my voice back. And
the apology has been in the works for a year in partnership with a group called 60 Scoop Indigenous Survivors of Saskatchewan.
It was a lot of work in a very short period of time. We had a bumpy, rocky journey, but overall our board had stuck together as a group, and we had one thing in mind, and that was to see that we could give at least a voice back to those that were affected by and impacted by the 60 Scoop era.
Rob Belanger was a survivor himself.
I was taken from my family when I was 3 years old, and I was not adopted, but I was put in care. I come from a family of 9, and back in those days, they had sent out children and families in pairs, and it just so happened that I was the last one, and I was sent out by myself.
Children of the 60 Scoop often lost complete contact with their families and culture.
During the 60 Scoop, not nearly enough consideration was given to the fact that Indigenous children come from communities with their own rich traditions, their own rich culture and history. Some Indigenous children were separated from their families and their communities, and as a result, those children were cut off from their culture, and they were cut off from their traditions.
Belanger says he spent years trying to reconnect to his culture.
Well, a lot of my history within the last 20 years has been in the area of research and finding out who I am as an Indigenous person. And not just as an Indigenous person, but who I am and where I fit in my territories, in my lands.
Belanger wants to see real change after today's apology.
We hope to see action. I've stated previously that when people apologize, sometimes they don't know what they're apologizing for. And it's more than just saying you're sorry. There needs to be some actions. We have given the province recommendations that we feel are a step in the right direction for 60 Scoop survivors. And also,
ladies and gentlemen, there is an earnest and concerted effort underway in our province of Saskatchewan to support and uplift all of those in need, including our friends and neighbours that are dealing with the impacts of the 60 Scoop.
Amber Bernard, APTN National News, Regina.
Last January, the BC Supreme Court ruled the federal government's solitary confinement policy is unconstitutional. The government appealed, and now the BC Court of Appeal has granted the government an 18-month extension to improve how prisoners in solitary confinement are treated. The challenge against the government's solitary confinement laws was launched by the BC Civil Liberties and the John Howard Society. They stated that the current laws are inhumane, and today's BC Court of Appeal decision gives the federal government until June 2019 to change their solitary confinement policy. But the court also stated that the government must immediately implement some new conditions for those prisoners.
There are some conditions regarding the rights of Indigenous inmates. Indigenous inmates will have access to Indigenous elders while in segregation, as well as a number of cultural practices and supports.
Over the last few months, we've been following the trial of Gary Hanlon, who is charged with killing a 12-year-old girl in 1978. APTN's Tina House joins us from Vancouver with an update on this case.
The trial for accused child killer Gary Hanlon has lasted just over 6 weeks. And later this week, the jury is expected to break for deliberation. In May of 1978, 12-year-old Monica Jack disappeared after going for a bike ride just outside of Merritt, BC. In 1995, her remains were later recovered by a hiker. And in 2004, RCMP conducted a Mr. Big sting operation in which Gary Hanlon admitted to killing Monica Jack. We'll be back to give you a full story once the verdict comes in later this week. Back to you in studio.
Thanks, Tina. It is a massive challenge reintegrating offenders back into New Zealand society. That country's Department of Corrections says that with the right support, people are less likely to reoffend. One neighborhood doesn't want a halfway on their doorstep, though, and Corrections has confirmed that no child sex offenders will be on the property. But as our friends at Mari TV tell us, that's little comfort for the residents who say the risk is still too high.
She's a community crusader.
I hope all the kids to come swimming today with this rain.
75-year-old Pat spent 2 days driving around her local community.
This road was a safe road for anyone to walk down at any time of the day or night until they talk about bringing that here.
Knocking on doors, starting a petition to close the door on a planned halfway house.
The first question everybody asks is it monitored? And as soon as we say no, the Salvation Army have some control there. They will be visiting, but...
Is that good enough?
That's, you know, there's 24 hours in a day. Okay, so let's have a look at this.
Pat has mapped out the neighbourhood.
And all these little red dots around about are these places here, which show you the distances from this house.
Schools, where the elderly live, and which families have children. It's a community she says belongs to those who haven't broken the law.
I'm not against giving them a chance, but not in this sort of area. They need to be in a rural situation, out in the country somewhere, working on a farm, being taught to be shepherds or something like that.
To offend the way that they have, go to jail, and then come out and we have to make allowances for them? I don't care who they are, you know.
But we couldn't see them anyway because all this is covered in.
Paige and her sister Mandy are residents who are prepared to walk their talk.
What would be your most pressing concern or questions for them? What do you want to know?
To corrections. You people are safe in your homes. You go home at night. If you were to put people in here to look out to, you know, monitor these people, they go home at night. We don't go home at night. This is our home, and you're threatening it. What are you thinking?
We're scared in our own home. The 3 girls, and I said to the girls, maybe we can, have you got a friend, a male friend that might want to, you know, got nowhere to live, might want to come and sleep in the sleep out or whatever. But, you know, it's disrupting our lives.
So,
yeah.
They're hungry for their own justice after meeting with corrections in May. Residents were told 3 to 4 ex-prisoners will live in the Housing New Zealand home for 6 to 12 months at a time. What wasn't clear were the crimes and convictions.
What are people thinking? Who do they think they are? Making choices for us and our lives. You know, I can't believe it that this is happening. You know, there should be a place for people like this, you know, and I've already been had up about how dare you call them those people. Well, I'm sorry, what am I supposed to say? Perverts, pedophiles, rapists, you know?
But Corrections has confirmed with Native Affairs that no convicted child sex offenders will live in the house.
While we have yet to decide exactly who will be living at the address and when they will move in, we can confirm that this will not include people with convictions for child sex offending. No offender would be permitted to reside at an address if it was considered that the risk could not be safely managed and public safety upheld.
More than 15,000 offenders were released from prison last year. The fact is, they are legally required to be released. The challenge is, they have to go somewhere.
The reality is that without supported accommodation, these offenders would be homeless, which would present an unacceptable safety risk to communities. The safety of communities is paramount in any decisions we make.
It's the 6th halfway house in Gisborne. Nationwide, there are 1,100 houses to support prisoner rehabilitation back into the community. Corrections says the government is investing a further $57 million to support housing for released prisoners. But this community believes the cost to them is far higher. Is there anything you're willing to compromise on or accept this as being a temporary ACOM?
I don't. No.
They're not banking for people like me. Right, they're banking for people who are going to go, oh, what can we do about it? It's the government, we can do nothing. We're not going away.
How far are you willing to take this?
How far? Far enough to make them leave.
An Edmonton woman making a name for herself with mixed blood apparel. That's coming up after the break. And here's the rest of tomorrow's weather forecast. To northern Alberta, -13 and snow and high level, -11 and sunny in Fort McMurray, -7 in Calgary and sunshine, -15 and sunny in Edmonton, 1 and rain in Campbell River, 3 and rain in Vancouver, -21 in snow in Dease Lake, -21 in sunshine in Fort Nelson, -32 in Dawson City. Mayo is -27 and sunny, -22 and sun in Whitehorse, -30 and clear in Norman Wells, -22 for Trout Lake and Fort Simpson, sunshine there, -19 and sunny in Polytexan at -26 and clear, -30 and clear in Cambridge Bay, -34 in Baker Lake, -30 and sunny in Repulse Bay and Chesterfield, -30 in Pangerton and sunshine, -24 and sunshine in Cape Dorset, -27 and sunny in Arctic Bay. Welcome back. A partial solar eclipse could be seen in the skies over China early this morning. The eclipse lasted for about 2 hours. Solar eclipses occur when the moon passes in front of the sun as viewed from the Earth. When the moon completely covers the sun, it creates a total solar eclipse, casting a moon shadow across the Earth's surface. Sometimes the moon only partially covers the sun, creating a partial solar eclipse. Back here on Earth, the heaviest load to ever hit the pavement in Alberta is on the move.
It's all Alberta, you know, it's constructed in Alberta, it's moved by Albertans, it's going to an Alberta company. So I understand that about 80% of all of the materials going in to these vessels are sourced from right here.
It's called a splitter. It weighs in at over 800 tons and measures nearly 100 meters long. That's about the length of a football field and the width of a 2-lane highway. The massive tower departed from Edmonton last night and will arrive at its destination outside Fort Saskatchewan on Wednesday. The machinery reportedly is used to make plastic parts. It will be moving below the posted speed limit and may pull over at times, so drivers in this part of northern Alberta are warned to expect delays. A new designer near Edmonton is making a mark in the fashion industry by using her grandmother's handwritten letters as inspiration for her work. APTN's Chris Stewart talked to designer Brandy Morin.
Brandy Morin's clothing line, called Mixed Blood Apparel, was only founded in November, but her clothing designs have already been shown at the Atapiaki Fashion Week in Calgary. Morin's line includes tops, leggings, and more that showcase her Métis heritage.
I have started by incorporating the languages of my ancestry, which is Cree and Iroquois. So I have Cree and Mohawk that I'm incorporating. And in one of my designs, I've also incorporated French into a phrase because I have French as well. I've had people request to start incorporating other languages, and so other Indigenous languages, and so I'm planning to do that.
Morin was close to her grandmother. She decided to honor her memory by putting her grandmother's letters on one of her designs.
I was able to put them onto a legging design, and they're beautiful, and it's just an honor for me to be able to bring her alive in the now and bring her hopes and dreams alive that didn't come to pass at that time.
Morin wants her clothing line to help keep Indigenous languages alive. Her clothes target youth and older generations alike.
Everybody wears clothes, and why not wear something with a message? Why not wear something with meaning? And each item of mine, each design of mine has a different phrase or a word, incorporates the Indigenous languaging. And so when people are out and about, they become curious about that. They become inspired by it. They become empowered by it.
Morin says that 5% of the proceeds from Mixed Blood Apparel will be going to the Native Women Associations of Canada, the Indigenous Language Institute, and the United Nations Refugee Agency.
It's awesome because the people that are wearing my designs, they're also giving back. We're all making a change and a difference together. Not only are they making a change when they're out and about wearing the designs and using it and learning themselves, using it as a teaching tool, they're also giving back to organizations that are, going right into the communities.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Stony Plain, Alberta.
I'm going to be ordering those leggings. Those are amazing. That is all the time we have for news tonight. You can always find more on our website at aptnnews.ca. That's also where you can keep up on developments at the Untitled camp that we told you about earlier. I'm your host, Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.